HIV actually acquires resistance to some antiretrovirals very rapidly. So all of the drugs that we use in first line, 3TC, tenofovir and efavirenz, require a single mutation in order to develop resistance. And we call that a low genetic barrier to resistance. If you gave that drug on its own, the concentration of HIV would drop very rapidly, but over a number of days, it would actually come back up to the baseline level. Other drugs develop resistance a lot more slowly. So drugs like AZT, drugs like lopinavir require an accumulation of mutations in the same virus. So AZT, for example, you need between 4 and 5 thymidine analog mutations in order to develop resistance. And for lopinavir and ritonavir, you need between 8 and 12 resistance mutations in the same virus before you develop resistance. So there you would get a much longer, slower development of resistance over a number of months. And those drugs are said to have a high genetic barrier to resistance. They are more robust and more forgiving in terms of intermittent non-adherence. Once you develop resistance, you can get complete cross-resistance between some drugs. For example, with efavirenz and nevirapine, if you have resistance to efavirenz, having developed the K103N, you will not be able to use nevirapine. You lose both drugs through the resistance that you've developed to one of them. 3TC and FTC, we lose resistance to both of those drugs with the M184V. There are some other drugs where there's partial cross-resistance. For example, people who are taking D4T in first line, when they fail and they have 1 or 2 thymidine analog mutations, you have some resistance to AZT, but usually you can still use that AZT for a while. Between tenofovir and abacavir, there is also some partial cross-resistance. If you have resistance to tenofovir, the effect of abacavir is reduced. And between protease inhibitors, there's also some cross-resistance, particularly if people are allowed to remain on a failing regimen and develop a few protease-resistant mutations, then you undermine the potential for future proteases to help.
Ibalizumab is a humanized monoclonal antibody designed to attach to receptors on CD4 cells. Receptor structures are located on the outside of CD4 cells and are comprised of 4 domains. Ibalizumab specifically attaches to the second domain of CD4 receptors and thus provides a protective coating. When HIV attempts to enter the cell after attaching to CD4 receptors that have been coated with ibalizumab, viral entry is blocked.